Hey everyone, welcome to Truth Noir. For the record, we are still celebrating the second year anniversary of Truth Noir, and it's well into the second calendar quarter of the year, so good job us. We're waiting on a guest to come join us, but in the meantime, it's an ability for me to fulfill my contractual obligation to the owners of the studio and have a mandated guest appearance by the owner of the studio himself, Mr. Nolan Silverstein. Hi, Nolan.
He didn't change the cameras yet, but we are going to shake hands anyway.
We'll do that once again.
It's a pleasure to be here.
For posterity.
There we go. Now we're doing this.
Welcome, Nolan. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks for doing your contractually obligated service to the studio by having me on your show.
No problem, Nolan. It's the least I could do. Well, how are you doing today?
Today's been another good day here at Drumbox, another good Weirdo Wednesday.
It seems like they're always good days. So Nolan, our suggested topic for tonight was sociopathy, psychopathy, their relation to serial killer personalities, and also how they relate to many world leaders that we are subject to today.
Oh yeah, they're the worst.
Yeah, so
terrible people.
Did we print the notes terrible. Even?
Oh, I did print notes. You want me to go get them?
Yeah, let's print the notes. We'll get the notes real quick. So everyone, sometimes this show goes completely off the rails, and this is one of those times where we have guests that haven't showed up yet, and sometimes ill-prepared. But we appreciate you watching, and we're sorry for coming on later than we usually do. But we were talking about serial killers tonight. And I didn't want it to be a thing where we glorify any of these horrible actions that these people have done, but more a little bit of a study of the behavior, the psychological profiles that really only one page, dude.
Yeah, is that it? Is there more?
Well, yeah, I was hoping for 2 pages.
Oh, okay.
2 copies.
Oh, you want?
Yeah, just like one for each of us.
Oh, okay. I'll print that.
So, the psychological profiles that tend to be common amongst these types of people, and also how those psychological profiles also relate to certain world leaders under whose rule we are subject, and also some of the civil servants who their certain occupational fields attract these personalities also. And when you come to realize that, for example, police officers or the police force is one of the occupations that a psychopathic personality tends to be attracted to and usually tends to flourish in, it's a little disturbing. So let's get right to it, shall we? It might just be you and me, guys. Who's to say? In general, with people who come to be labeled as serial killers, there's certain personality profiles, and they generally fall under the category of psychopath and sociopath. And while those 2 personality types are very similar, there are a couple key differences that we will address. In psychopaths, you have a complete lack of moral conscience, also a complete lack of empathy. So these people do not view the things that they're doing as wrong, and also they don't care about how you are feeling about these horrible things that they might be doing to you should you fall into their company. Sociopaths, on the other hand, have a sort of sense of right and wrong, but are just completely unrestrained by morality. So if you feel that someone has slighted you, if you're a sociopath, you may see it as a completely acceptable reaction to murder them. So that's the difference between psychopathy and sociopathy. There's some other differences too. Oh, hey, we're joined back by Mr. Nolan Silverstein.
Okay, so I got the printer to work after some hammers and some stuff, but it's here and I got the thing.
Right.
So,
Perfect.
good job.
So, Nolan, do you
Good
think
job.
serial killing is something that you should do or something you should don't?
I think that you should don't on killing anyone.
Yeah, whenever possible, right?
For the most part, you shouldn't stop anyone from having a good time. And serial killers don't typically attack people that are stopping other people from having a good time. They typically just attack strangers. Right?
It seems to be.
Because if you have like a goal, then you're just a politician.
Right.
Right.
Well, there are certain agendas that we come to find in these. Statistically, I wanted to go over a couple of statistics first. Now, generally speaking, male serial killers tend to act alone, whereas female serial killers tend to act in pairs or small groups. One notable example was the Countess Elizabeth Bathory from the late 1500s. If we can scroll, yep, there she is. She was.
They can't see that though. There we go.
There we are. She was a countess in medieval Hungary, and what she would do is she would have her female servants, like her ladies in waiting, go out into the countryside and tell the parents of like peasant girls to send their daughters to court, and they would learn court etiquette, and they would learn all of the fineries of the higher strata of social society, and hopefully marry into a higher position than they otherwise might. And so all of the peasantry was like, yes, take our daughters, go get a better life for you and your family. But what she would do, Countess Bathory, is she would eviscerate them, like prolonged torture, harvest their blood, and and bathe in it, because she had this notion that bathing in the blood of virgins would preserve her youth and beauty. And as you can see,
Evil bitch.
I don't know if it worked or not, but
Terrible.
But yeah, it was one of those things. And as far as serial killers go, you have people like Jeffrey Dahmer and Dean Corll, Gacey. These people maybe killed like 10, 20, 30 people over the course of their serial killer careers. Countess Bathory here is probably personally responsible for about 600 deaths of young girls from the countryside of Hungary in the late 1500s.
600?
Over 600.
Damn.
She was eventually, there was such an outcry about it and like threats of riot that she was finally tried and convicted and sentenced to solitary confinement in one of her castles.
Okay. Did she continue to kill people after that?
No, she was only allowed to be visited by one person thrice daily to provide her meals.
Oh, yeah. Well, sounds awful. Sounds like a terrible person. I'd love to talk to her.
Yeah, right. Like,
Find out what she was saying to people.
now her husband was also a psychopath, but was a warlord, and so actually had what was considered to be a legitimate outlet for his cruelty, because he would go and fight wars and joust in tournaments and things like this. But so yeah, generally fits the common mold of a female serial killer. Had a small group of people that helped her accomplish these things. There was also, although that's common to female serial killers, men generally tend to act alone. There was and this is the picture of the gentleman in the army uniform. There's a man named Dean Corll, and this was much more recently, in like the 60s. Yep, there he is. And he, after he was honorably discharged from the army, good job, fella, he moved back into town, met a 12-year-old neighbor boy with whom he was having sexual relations.
Yeah.
And what he would do is he would have his young partner bring his young friends over, and he would pay him $200 per person for his like schoolyard friends that he would bring to this house, and together they would torture and murder these young boys.
Oh, wow.
And so that's an example of the exception to the rule that men generally act alone in their serial killer adventures.
Well, that guy's using someone as purely a pawn, right?
Absolutely.
It's like complete control over a person.
And I suppose another exception would be like Charles Manson.
Yeah.
Was one of those very charismatic personalities, and this is a example of that kind of psychopathy, that these people are successful, right? Like this was an army veteran, not a bad looking fellow, wouldn't have a problem finding a job, but had this like compulsion to do these horrible things, but you would never suspect it.
Yeah, I don't think that anyone has ever been a serial killer because they were ugly. I don't think that's what does it. I don't think that's your establishing traits. I don't think it was like, oh man, I'm so ugly, I gotta like
I'm gonna murder a bunch
take
of
this
people.
out of people. Usually ugly people have better ideas. They're like, oh, I gotta write stuff now.
Yeah.
Right? People were real mean to me, but I gotta move somewhere where they're not so mean to me.
Right,
Right,
yeah. Well, that's not that would be a person who's not psychotic.
Maybe Ed Gein, right? But he wasn't just ugly. He was like, his mom did all that stuff to him and all that shit. Like,
Well, yeah, and so that's another thing. Abuse
abuse.
tends to be catalytic in a lot of these.
look
There's
at
Ed
Look
Gein.
at that fucker, man.
Yeah, let's go ahead and make him full screen. We also have some of his creations.
Dude,
He was the most creative serial killer we have.
if you look that guy in the eyes, you would know something was up. You would be like, if that guy comes near me, I'm gonna hit him in the face, right?
Yeah, no, there's
Look at
definitely
him.
something like it's definitely a very uneasy feeling that you get.
He's terrible. And that's just like the picture of him. It's like, oh, we don't have any pictures of Ed Gein, but that one we do have.
Oh, it looks like we have our guest here. Hey, Dirk, can we let our guest in?
I think she just walked in.
So, waiting for our guest to come on. But yeah, he was definitely he would peel people's skin off and make handicrafts out of them. He made a belt out of the sewn together nipples of his victims that he would wear around his waist.
What's up, Mia?
Well, hello there.
Hey, it's been a long time. It's like a few hours.
24 hours. I am so sorry I'm late. I'm a terrible person.
Are you a terrible person?
Are you as terrible as Ed Gein?
Yeah, look at that guy.
That's true.
This fucker, man.
You know what I love is the fact that he actually used his victims for craft purposes.
Weren't you just talking about that? He was.
Yeah, we
very-
actually have a couple pictures if we can cue those up.
He was making crafts out of his victims.
Oh yeah, he made like a lamp out of nipples and shit.
What?
But his mother's room remained completely untouched.
What a fucker, man.
So, these are little bits of people's faces that Ed Gein had, that he manufactured. And if you look at the bottom of the frame, that is a fork and spoon inserted into the bones of some of his victims. And,
Ugh.
Oh, and he used them like, yeah, see, that's crafty.
So, like, did he show these to anybody? Was there like anybody around that he showed them to?
No.
Nobody? There's no like
Who the
neighbor
fuck's gonna
boy?
come over?
Right, he was just entirely alone. And
yeah, no,
doing this.
he was super reclusive. He lived in only 2 rooms of the house that his mother died in. The rest of it was full of her stuff that remained untouched the entire time.
Yeah, that room was lock solid, his mother's room.
Yeah? Wonder what she did. She did a lot of fucked up shit, right? Isn't she?
His father, I believe, was really abusive and alcoholic.
Yeah.
And died of alcoholism. Hey, Dirk, can we go to can we find the face mask picture? This one's pretty awful.
Pretty-
So Ed Gein was responsible for the inspiration rather for the films Texas Chainsaw Massacre,
Silence of the Lambs.
Silence of the Lambs, and little bits of House of a Thousand Corpses if you want to go non-canon. But so yeah, Mia, I asked Nolan earlier, serial killing something you should do or something you should don't.
Well, are we talking in ways of like Dexter? Because I do think there's too many people on the planet.
Well, I think that's what our psychopathic world leaders
Yeah,
are
mass
for, is
murder.
to organize wars that help cull the population.
They're the worst. They're all the worst, right? Anybody that wants to kill other people is the worst.
I do kind of want to poison people.
What
Just to
over?
make 'em sick.
By people you know, or just like Munchausen by proxy kind of thing?
Speaking of Manchester by proxy, we had a discussion about that earlier.
Yeah, that's an
I just
interesting...
want to put acid in people's food and drink because I think that'd be funny.
Do you want to tell them, though? Do you want to be like, hey, just put some acid?
Yeah, I do. I want to tell them.
Then you just got the spirit of California in you. That's,
Yeah, that's not a...
That's
well,
a
it's
hunter.
probably... technically, it's a crime, but karmically, I don't think
It's
so.
a Hunter vibe, right? That's what Hunter Thompson used to do. Yeah, just how's that taste? That iced tea, how's that iced tea taste? Does it taste like there's acid in it? You can't taste the acid, but there's a bunch of it in there.
So, Mia, in the grand echelon of serial killers throughout time, which was the one that you found most interesting?
Well, I'm a fan of Dahmer. I'm a fan of the son of Sam because he's Jewish.
Berkowitz, right?
Yep, David Berkowitz.
Yeah, I scared
Talk
up
to
a
the dog.
picture of him for you.
Yeah.
Oh, there's no...
Dahmer.
That's Jeffrey Dahmer.
I love the fact that everyone was like, is Dahmer insane? Not insane, insane, not insane. The fucker ate people.
Yeah, see, there's
Yeah, you
Jeffrey
shouldn't eat
Dahmer
people.
being a little bit more whimsical.
He was actually a little bit of a class clown, and a lot of people felt kind of sorry for him.
It's like Mick Jagger.
Although that's not the one we're
Yes.
looking for, Dirk. One more. There we go.
There we go. Look at that.
Oh,
No, that's
Oh,
a
no.
different that's a different psychopath.
Yeah.
Well, is he a so?
I thought that was Andy Kaufman.
I could see why you would think that.
It's like Andy Kaufman.
Do you think, Mia, that they were the same person?
Andy Kaufman and
Like in Zoolander, where the artists and creatives of the world were actually secret assassins?
No, but I do think Berkowitz had a very, very, because you know about his mom, right? Yeah. So get this, Jewish guilt trip of the century. He got angry at his mom and said, "I hope you die." Last thing he ever said to her, because like she went out to lunch with her friend and died of breast cancer right there,
Oh no.
right?
It's terrible.
Yeah, and so he cried for a week and was like, "Shit, that would give me a fucking complex too."
Oh yeah, and then he talked to the dog, right?
And like then he dabbled around because he's like, I have these things, but good Jewish boys don't have these feelings, so I must not be Jewish. So he dabbled around with like Satanism and stuff like that.
Oh no. That never leads to good things.
Generally not. At least not in the way that he was.
Well, it leads to some
practicing
pretty
them.
good heavy metal music.
Absolutely,
Oh, yeah, that's
definitely an inspiration for a lot of good death metal.
Although sometimes you wind up with death metal bands that people kill each other in them.
Oh, like the
that's more-
Slayer slashers?
That's more black metal.
Black metal, okay. Yeah, those guys are.
That was the
too
scene where they
intense.
killed each other and burned down churches.
Yeah, a little too much.
What's the name of that one band that had that song, Suicide Solution? There was this band
Muppets.
that the Muppets. Okay, the Muppets had this one song called Suicide Solution, and if you backtrack, you can hear them yell, like, "Do it, do it, do it."
Oh, that was Judas Priest,
Was it Judas Priest?
and that was Stained Class. I'm sorry, it was from the album Stained Class.
All right, so apparently 2 teenagers killed themselves to that song, and the parents sued, and they did not win.
I read a book written by the guy who provided expert testimony against Judas Priest, making the argument that yes, those subliminal messages in or backwards recordings are actually perceivable by the subconscious. And he successfully made his argument, but the judge decided in that case that that was probably not the main most catalytic factor in what they did. It was they both came from recently broken homes. It was the middle of winter, like these kinds of things that tend to possibly spawn depression on a seasonal basis, and so...
I've been told that the most common month to kill yourself in is April.
Really?
Yeah, I wonder what the most common month to kill other people is.
I don't remember exactly
Like
when,
when the
but
murder
it was in autumn or winter, as I recall. Common estimates by experts place the percentage of the American population that is either psychopathic or sociopathic at between 0.5 and 5%, which is a fairly wide margin.
Yeah.
But that equates to between 1.5 and 15 million American citizens that are either psychopathic or sociopathic.
No ability to empathize,
Feel empathy,
or have thought, right? Like, or have like emotional content to their thought. There's like
yeah, extreme lack of ability to form emotional bonds with people.
That's, I don't know. That's, how do they judge that though in people?
Well, they've also discovered that psychopaths and sociopaths don't feel pain as often as non. So they did this one study that they can never repeat because it's very unethical, where they just got a bunch of psychopathic and sociopathic prisoners and gave them a shock. And all people that were like, oh shit, there's gonna be another painful shock, there's gonna be another painful shock, were fine. Psychopaths, meh. They just didn't.
You ever meet any of them? How many do you think you've met in your life?
Well, what is it? Bob Hare, who's like the psychopath whisperer, said that 1 in 100 people are a psychopath.
Yeah, I'd say that's about right from the people I've interacted with.
Yeah, I want to say, I just met one. Not
It fits
too long
on the
ago.
low end of that 1.5%.
Yeah.
Or 1.5 million.
1 in 100.
1 in 100.
Oh, and they're the worst. Who wants to be around them? They're the most terrible.
Well, and so we have the top 10 careers that people with psychopathic personalities tend to be drawn to, and they include...
Real estate agent, is that on there?
Yeah, CEO,
That is number 1.
lawyer, TV executive, so there you go, Mr. Nolan.
Oh, I'm not a TV executive.
Salesperson, surgeon, journalist, and here's my favorite, police officer. So...
This looks like a joke, though.
You know what is the
Is
least?
this real?
Clergy.
Do you know what the least sociopathic job is?
Clown.
Nurse. Probably
Empathy.
school
People that
teacher.
have empathy for other
Yeah.
people.
With the exception of
Women.
Mr. John Wayne Gacy.
As a clown?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, he was a clown. Yeah, that's true.
But he was only like a clown the way, like, I'm a drag king, kind of like he did it for fun. But
Was he doing that for fun?
he was doing it for fun to entertain kids and as a way to like rub shoulders with all the other politicians. Did you know that his last meal was Kentucky Fried Chicken and a pound of strawberries?
Sounds like the right thing that he would eat.
Yeah, I used to own a chain of Kentucky Fried Chicken restaurants.
Terrifying looking person. Another one. Who would let that guy put handcuffs on them?
Who, Jeffrey Dahmer?
Were they covered
Gacey.
in fur?
Gacy? I don't know. I don't think so. Just ask if you want to see a magic trick.
And then, and then the teenagers were stuck.
Yeah.
So yeah, we have a picture of Jeffrey Dahmer here, and this was the one that I think interested me the most on a number of levels. Not the least of which is the tragedy of incompetence of the police force in the numerous times that they arrested Dahmer for various offenses. When they had him dead to rights and people complained about the horrible stench of death coming from his house, there were a number of occasions where the police procedurally did the right things. They got search warrants and they collected a number of complaints before they took action, showed up at his front door and were like, oh, okay, well, we're just going to believe the half-baked excuse that you gave us for why your house smells this awful, and we're not going to come inside. All the while, like, in his personal living space, he was pretty open about, like, having dead bodies laying on the bed and cut up bits in the refrigerator.
Well, mostly he kept them in these giant barrels. Yeah. But
All those interviews with his neighbors are pretty cool.
oh yeah, they're all like, he's such a nice guy, and they all loved him. I just think it's like the fucker worked in a chocolate factory. He chose to eat people. That's insanity to me. How did he not go to like a psych ward? We should have been studying him, not putting him in prison.
Yeah, where he was eventually killed almost immediately by another inmate.
Oh, really?
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, think about, like, what if you were doing a piece for some stupid shit and, like, Jeffrey Dahmer was your, like, neighbor all of a sudden?
Yeah, I feel like you just kill him out of self-preservation immediately.
Yeah.
So get that guy dead before he can do anything to any of us.
For the bragging rights, at least.
Just kill that guy, yeah. There's no sense to it, right? Some people go to jail because they killed someone that they hated, or they were stuck in a system. Like they had to kill because they were going to die otherwise.
Yeah, like
right?
the guy that felt compelled to do these things.
Yeah.
That compulsion's still there. It doesn't matter
Yeah.
what room you put him in.
That's right. He's still going to try and do that.
I think we should put them all in a big maze and make it a reality TV show.
Yeah, or something, right?
That's what they used to do.
Like, I mean, this is the fall of the Roman Empire that we're living in. We all understand this, right? Like, and what did they do while the Roman Empire was falling? They were like, hey, let's have giant gladiator fights in the Colosseum and
I wouldn't watch that show. Would you watch that show?
give them games.
I don't like watching people die on the internet. I've seen it before. I don't want to see that again, ever.
True, and
It's not
neither
my favorite
do I.
thing.
But I think you could definitely.
Well, I'm a libertarian, so I'm like, yay, capitalism.
Yeah, it's going to make some money. Just do it.
Let's make some money.
These kids don't need football pads.
Also,
Let's
you know
just-
how much money we're wasting having them like in life in prison? Just put them in a maze.
Well, what if we're all part of the same time worm continuum and we're all connected, so when you do that, you're hurting yourself?
I don't want to live forever.
I don't know. Yeah, it's all too confusing.
Yeah, but I mean, what if karmically that, like, by your participation in that, by the fact that you allow it
Yeah.
in the world that you live in, means that you have to be, like, reborn into it when it's even further developed and horrific,
Yeah, that's part of it.
where it turns into, like, a battle royale scenario. And, like, a random classroom is picked, and they send you out to the woods with weapons, and the last one standing wins.
Sounds like the future we're going to live in.
Yeah, it's all your favorite dystopian novels come to life.
Today's color is orange. If your color is orange, proceed to the extermination. Again, the color is orange.
It's like you sound like the guys at Goodwill. The color of the week is purple.
Yeah, that's where we're going to live in.
Yeah, the Goodwill wasn't just made to sell cheap clothes, it was made to condition humanity for the coming
For the battle royale.
culling of the population.
I wonder if people who have been abused would do better in the battle royale because they got experience.
Most likely, yes.
Which is interesting because Dahmer wasn't abused and neither was Berkowitz.
True.
It's interesting to look at their like history and see how many of them have been abused, how many of them haven't been. Most males haven't. Or most male serial killers have, I mean. There's only a few exceptions, like Dahmer and Berkowitz, that just came from like
Right.
happy families, but were just really fucked up in the head.
It's
like, really fucked up.
It's extremely deviant behavior. Like, to act like that is extremely deviant. You probably have to have a lot of deviant things happen to you before you get to that point. And, like, get through a lot of really deviant things. to
Well,
get to that
generally
point.
speaking, absolutely. But
I can't
like,
kill someone right now. I'd probably get caught, right?
But like Dahmer is that weird exception where like his the worst thing that happened to him was his parents got divorced. But like from the time he was a little kid, he was like cutting up animals and
Yeah.
That's the number one sign that a kid's gonna be a psychopath or a sociopath. Cutting up animals. If you find like a collection of like dead animal bones under your kid's bed, you should talk to them.
What can you do, though, in some situations, right? What if somebody's just inherently evil? Just deep to the core.
I'd send them to the military.
That's a good, I like that solution. That's a good solution. Your
Or
chances.
send them to the maze.
Yes.
Send them to the maze. Place your bets.
right.
Make him a boxer. Ooh. Or a wrestler.
Yeah, I mean, there's got to be some
Exploit
kind
them.
of like outlet that is.
Yeah, he doesn't have any fucking feelings. Who
Productive.
cares?
I don't know.
Yeah. What do you do with these people? Exploit them.
Yeah.
Exploit all these people. Shouldn't you? Oh man, I guess killing them is just another kind of exploitation.
Well, yeah, but then as far as inspiration, like if otherwise normal kids see this behavior being rewarded, right? These people would then given that scenario become very popular, and like what would that say to your viewing public at large? Would that then be a thing to aspire to? Would that behavioral type then perpetuate itself in otherwise normal personalities or borderline personalities that might otherwise not have been?
Borderline personality disorder or borderline personalities?
Like people that are on the verge, like that have psychopathic tendencies, maybe, but do not engage in these activities or would not otherwise, not given some kind of stimulus that kind of made it okay.
The Unabomber Manifesto talked about how like that's not psychopathic. That's just like what people really feel like.
Oh yeah, the Unabomber was the smartest motherfucker.
And he was like, people are just not
Yeah,
used to
he was
living in
very
society,
articulate.
right?
He was incredibly articulate.
And they just want to. Maybe you want to punch somebody in the face sometimes. Maybe you want to do more than that to some people. That was his whole point, right? It was like, do it. Somebody's going to do it, right? Everybody's going to start doing that eventually.
Yeah, but there's this thing we have called morals where you learn don't do that.
Society, yeah. They don't. You can't hang out with me if you're going to do that, man. I'll get that guy to help me stop you. Right?
Throw him in the maze.
That probably happened at some point in society.
So
right?
does psychopathy make the world go round, or is there a better way?
I think it keeps the money flowing because so many of them are CEOs and lawyers.
And extortionist fuckhead little dick police officers.
There's a book you should read
That guy.
called The Psychopath Test by the guy that did The Men Who Stare at Goats.
Oh, cool.
I like
Yeah.
that book.
Ron Johnson, John Ronson,
The Don Ron Johnson.
the
John
Julio,
Ron Donson.
Sham Lemon Ding Dong, yeah.
The Don John Ronson.
That sounds like a really great porn star
Wait,
name.
Don Ho? Is that who you're talking about?
Don John Ronson.
Oh,
Ron Don Johnson.
I'm not really in the mood for a tiki drink.
So, Mia, what would be your psychoanalysis of Donald Trump, given your observation of his behavior over the period of time that you've observed it?
I'm not a therapist, but I do believe he has narcissistic personality disorder. I believe, and many people that do have narcissistic personality disorder have a tendency to have some psychopathic traits. There's actually been a professor at UCLA, I can't remember his name, but normally whenever you want to teach people about certain personality disorders, you would have to hire an actor or whatever. He just throws up clips of Trump on YouTube now, and he's like, fuck it, I am saving so much money, I don't have to book any of these stupid actors anymore.
President Fucko, right, man? He's the worst.
So, Mia, do you think Donald Trump is, or at some time in the past, been fucking his daughter?
You know, I think he wants to. Or, like, yeah, you get that vibe too? I totally get that vibe.
Or is at the very least offering her up
I feel
to
sorry
other
for
world
Tiffany
leaders?
because Tiffany isn't getting fucked. And Ivanka clearly is. So I wonder why he just chose Ivanka and not Tiffany to fuck.
Do you think Jared Kushner is a cuckold to all of the world leaders and forced to watch as they progressively run longer and longer trains on his wife?
Maybe he's into it.
Well, one could only hope.
One can only hope.
Because otherwise, man, that'd be a shitty gig.
Yeah, I feel a little sorry for Ivanka because it's like, number one, she grew up with this narcissistic father, and now she's thrown into the spotlight, and now she may or may not be fucking her dad.
These people are all having a terrible time, clearly. They're clearly all having a terrible time. Like, nothing in this looks like fun.
Yeah, the only thing they are
awful.
is rich, or pretending to be rich.
They're definitely rich. I mean, because they represent capitalism, right? They represent, like, the pin. We get it, guys. You got it. We get what it is. But, like, they're not having a good time at all, man. They look... That guy's a clown. He's a fucko, man. He just lies all the time. And then he's sort of, like, sniveling about it.
Yeah, and this is not even... Like, it doesn't even have anything to do with your individual politics. Like, this is based on observation of this man's behavior and his doublespeak over a long period of time.
Right, like,
That's
I'm
what
a rational
narcissists
person.
do. Narcissists do that. Also, narcissists have a tendency when they are backed into a corner, they won't cower. They'll just, which we've seen time and time again.
Right.
Yeah, he's the worst. He's just lying all the time. Insane, right? That dude's insane.
Yeah.
Or he's a really funny clown.
I wonder what it's going to be like 100 years from now when, like, our grandchildren are reading about him in history books. What is it going to say?
I don't know if there will be books anymore by then.
Kindles. Kinders. What are they?
I don't even know if knowledge will be allowed to be disseminated.
In the year 2525.
Yeah, right. If man is still alive, we will certainly, like, outside of some possibly miraculous occurrence, we're just going to get dumber, like in that movie Idiocracy.
Oh, that shit happens. That shit's just a documentary now.
Pretty much.
I always felt sad for, like, that one very rich, smart couple that were like, we can't have a baby in this economy, and then there's Jim Bob over there getting his dick sucked every goddamn day.
Yeah, right, with 40, 50,000 kids. He even gets genitally impaled, and they're like, through the miracle of medical science, he's able to keep having kids.
Stop that.
Oh, man.
Yeah, if you're dumb, like, get a fucking vasectomy. We're not saying fuck less, just get the fucking vasectomy.
Yeah, but the government used to mandate that on people, and that didn't turn out well. You ever heard of,
Yeah, no, it's all a
what's that stuff
double-edged
called?
sword. Like, yeah, enforced sterilization.
all
I'm
that.
not saying enforce it,
Eugenics.
but like, there's some people that know their dumb shits. Like,
Yeah, but
get the snip, dude.
what's the meaning of the universe? To get smarter? That's not necessarily what they told us, you know? Maybe it's to get dumb.
Well, I think all of our greatest philosophical texts have encouraged a acquisition of knowledge and spiritual enlightenment over the physical plane and its temptations.
Maybe just the popular texts. I think some people are just like, just flow. Just let the universe flow. Maybe we're just gonna get dumber.
Let's just cut people's skin off and make clothes out of them.
Just get dumber, yeah. Let's do it eventually. What's the worst that could happen?
All right, you guys. Well, we are out of time, alas, this hour, but I want to thank Miss Mia Mars for coming down and sharing
Sorry,
the
I was
stage
so
with
late.
us. Hey, it's all right. We'll do another one of these days. Mr. Nolan Silverstein, thanks for coming on and pretending like you weren't forcing me to have you on.
Yeah, he was obligated to have me
I
on.
always appreciate it.
I'll do better next time.
You did fine. So, anyways, you guys, we're wrapping up here in this continuing overlong celebration of the second year anniversary of Truth Noir. So, we'll come back at you next week with more weird shit. Karen Centerfold is going to be on, so it's going to be ultra super, oh my god, what the fuck happened to this dimension kind of weird. So we'll see you then, and in the meantime, wherever you're going, get there safe. Bye.